Hey, Jeff, how's it going, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Actually, well, for people who don't know, who the hell are you?
Well, I was an editor for Topps for many years, over 13 years. And in between that, I wore different hats. It wasn't just editing. Sometimes I did marketing, licensing. I also, made toys for kids, which we would call products that were not between the cards or candy. It was just like just a product that you would do just for fun, But one of my main things we're doing licensing. Besides doing our own characters, and licensing was like WCW, WWE, Star Wars.
Did you have any licensing stuff with like? Were you doing GPK back then and Garbage Pail Kids? I mean, like.
Yeah. The beginning of WCW, we weren't doing Garbage Pail Kids, but we were planning it. We were already planning it. We already were thinking of doing our own thing. And wrestling probably also had to do with it. Wrestling and Pokemon, because each of them had to deal with individual characters with individual powers that certain people could relate to, and also in wrestling, it's almost like, you could relate to Rey Mysterio if you were born in that, section, whatever.
Sure.
And you could, be a Ric Flair fan if you're from the South, that sort of thing. But it was mostly based on trying to give what the people want, and be honest with it. Like, let's show them what WCW is really about, and we did the NWO, which, the interesting part is wrestling started with the sports department. And, you always heard the thing about wrestling. Is it sports? Is it,
within Topps, it's kind of flipped back and forth between the departments, entertainment, sports.
Right. So we didn't know either. Like, should it be sports? Should it be entertainment? So if you look at the first early sets of WCW, I think there was 2 in the 90s.
3 sets in the 90s.
Right. Remember the very first one that looked kind of cartoony or something?
No, I mean, the first one is the 98. It's called WCW/NWO Series 1.
Right. And so that was designed mostly in a sports type of aesthetic of like, let's treat it like a sports brand, that sort of thing. And then later we started treating it. And then I started coming in and I started helping out with the sets.
Here's our first set right here. So this was like the card number 1.
Right. There you go. Right. And that was a sports thing. And what it is, what I'm surprised is that they were able to get as much as they could, because it wasn't like WWE. It was, they said, okay, you want this autograph, come over to this event, come to the back, dressing room, and ask the guy if he wants to do it. That's how it was done for WCW. Completely different than what you would do for WWE.
So with those autograph cards, because that's a good topic that I want to touch on, because there's a lot of misinformation out there and some theories about those cards. Those were all printed. Those were all on card, no stickers back then.
Well, what they did. Well, here's the thing: we printed them before we knew if we could get them. You know what I mean?
So what did you print for that first series? How many autographs did you print? Because there's X amount that came out in that set, and then there's known cards that never made it into the set that were supposed to be in that set.
I only could give you a little bit of an answer to that, because I don't know how many cars were built, but I do know we should mention Jerry McCarrick, who was one of the brand managing editors at the time. He helped sports get these autographs. And if it wasn't for the mouth of the South, WCW autographs probably would never be made. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, it's long been talked about that Jimmy Hart was the one that was kind of the liaison between Topps and
Oh,
company.
Totally.
Because he's the one that made available, or his son years ago made available a Ric Flair autograph that never got put in packs. And
well, that
only one has ever been on eBay.
I could explain that, right? So this is the myth and the story when I was, there. And Jerry McCarrick could probably fill in the blanks, So what it was, so you go to these back rooms, and we would send Jerry to these back rooms. And it really wasn't his job to do that, but it was because of his relationships with some of the managers. It wasn't just the mouth; it was some other guys,
Sure.
And so what he would do is go back into the dressing room and wait for the guy to be calm and to be able to talk, and say, hey, do you want to, do some credit card, some sketch cards? I'm from Topps, explain this whole thing. And they, and some of them would always have some sort of, well, I would like a steak sandwich. I would like 4, 5 cards for myself, I would like 10 cards for myself. I like 20, whatever it is. And Jerry would try, depending how much we needed them, to to fulfill their
request.
Their request at the time. And some of them were hard. Some of them were hard to, to promise. Like, well, I don't know. But like, there's one story which I love, which is because I love the wrestler, is Ric Flair. So and I remember having a Ric Flair autograph was really hard.
At that time, almost none of those guys had authenticated autograph cards in the market. It was brand new to that thing, with the exception of Undertaker and Savage. Both did autograph cards for a '94 Action Pack card series.
And I must say, I heard Undertaker being a very polite and he drew within the lines of with Topps' request. He was like, he understood. It's like, you don't give this out to people. You don't do that.
He hadn't signed until the last several years. He had never signed for Topps.
Well, maybe it was that personal connection with Jerry, because Jerry was very personable and he liked wrestling and he respected these guys. You know what I mean? So I think he was welcomed into the locker room. And I would talk to him about these stories all the time, but one was the Ric Flair story, where he was trying to get Ric Flair to sign and commit right there and then. And it says, well, maybe I will, maybe I won't. This is how I heard it, Maybe I will, maybe I won't, Why don't you leave some with me? Leave them with me, and I'll sign them and I'll send them to you, And as the story goes, we never got him back. We never got him. We don't know what happened. We would call him, I don't know, But then we would see him in the market. Sign, We've
only seen one. We've seen one over the years.
But
all the series collectors can only confirm one ever got out on the market.
Oh, okay.
I believe it sold.
I thought there was more than that.
There could be, but it was sold on eBay on Jimmy Hart's son's account. And it sold for about $2,000.
Wow.
And it's the only one that anybody who's collected these cards over the years, over 20 years now, can tell you they've only seen one ever hit the market.
Well, like what I heard, that he didn't really want to do it, unless he had more of an incentive. But he did give a promise of like, oh, give me these and I'll sign them, I'll give them back to you, that sort of thing. And I remember Jerry always telling the story in the office how he never got those Ric Flair cards back, And he wasn't the first. He wasn't. Some of them had family troubles or passed away while they had it. You know what I mean?
Well, we have some that are out there that in the first series, I think they both had 36 or 37 autographs in Series 1 and Series 2. Series 2 was the Nitros that came out in '99. Okay. That had 37 autographs. There are 5 talents that never made it into the product that got in the secondary market.
Right.
British Bulldog, Bobby Duncombe Jr., Booker T, Rey Mysterio, and Ric Flair. All came
That's
from
weird. That's weird that Booker T wouldn't have signed. I find that weird.
he didn't sign, so but his made it on the secondary market because somebody got a hold of his cards.
But these guys might have signed when they were on to WWE later on because they might have been forced to.
Well, they were in WWE. A lot of these guys have Bobby Duncombe Jr. didn't sign because he passed. I mean, he signed, but his cards never made it back because he passed away.
Right.
Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, those are what. Yeah, I remember this.
Rey Mysterio Jr. cards became available to the public because he had a whole brick of his unsigned cards with him, and I had him sign some of them.
But you see how it happens?
But that's a great question I want to ask you, though. That's a great question.
You're the first witness of how it happens, but at the time, I think Topps was just happy of whoever sent theirs back. You know what I mean?
That leads to the question of how many cards did Topps print for each guy?
I know there's been a few females that didn't do it, and then later on, they were around somewhere. I don't know who it was. But I remember the exact cards, what they were. And I was almost, back then, I just started and I was an assistant and I was getting to know how the system was working and who was doing what, that sort of thing. But I would hear these not horror stories per se, but just saying how precarious the procedure is. It's just like you give it to them, you don't know, before you do the wraps, you're not sure if you're going to get,
Yeah. So
you know what I mean? It's hard to do wraps with odds when you don't know if the guy signed them yet or anything.
You guys are doing you're doing Series 1 in 98. So the WCW NWO set Series 1 in 98. You guys
Which was mostly sports, and the editor was Chris Holmes, I believe.
Chris Holmes. No relation to the guy from Wasp?
No, not at all.
That set had 37 autographs available in that set as well. To date, there's no official, this didn't make it into that set kind of thing. So it looks like all 37 autographs you guys presented to the talent signed it.
I remember my office having blanks of a lot of talent. And some of them were, the women of wrestling. Some of them were odd wrestlers or something like that, but they weren't signed, but we had piles of them still, unsigned,
Typically, how many would you guys, like for then, typically they'd send them out as what they call a brick.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't think that we would ask anybody to sign more than 50 to 75, if that.
Well, I can tell you for sure, definitely more than that for a lot of guys. Because when Mysterio had his brick, there was probably at least somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 to 500 cards in that brick.
Wow.
The brick was about this long.
It kind of, and what it is, I don't think we ever expected them to sign them all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And especially when we bought them, it wasn't like a regular, how sketch artists get $150 a card or whatever, $3. Yeah. I think they were getting a decent amount, like $5 an autograph or something around it.
Sure.
I don't remember. It might have been $3 an autograph. I don't remember. But it was always such a guess of who's going to hand their cards in. And sometimes they might even put a mark in their autograph. It's like, well, you can't do that. You can't put a swastika or or your wife's name, your ex-wife's name in there or something like that. And, sometimes you have to be, and some of them, here's the weird part. And for some reason, when I think about this, I think about Ric Flair, where maybe Ric Flair did send some cards. But I remember they would send them and they would be ruined. Because when they would sign them, they must have just signed them in their hand and didn't care that the corners were being bent or anything.
Stack them on top of each other. The ink hadn't dried yet.
And the other thing, what Topps would do, here's another secret. Topps would do a different printer for autographs who weren't maybe the same caliber as we would do for the base cards. but at least they could get it done before the set came out, and we can get it into the talent's hands. You know what I mean? And a lot of those, if you touch them sometimes, which we found out was that the edges would sometimes get a little white mark because for some reason the way they did it was so sensitive that the layer, if you held the card in a rough way, you'll get nicks very easily, and that's what I hated about doing that quick thing. But it was the only way to get sketch cards into the talent's hands before the card set came out, because most prodigious sketch card producers took more time than a week or 2 weeks, and that's what we needed. Once we got the okay, all right, we need the cards in 2 weeks. You know what I mean? So, and sometimes it wouldn't be the best quality, I don't think. Not all the time.
So in 98, 99, did you have any involvement with those sets at all?
The one I remember the most, and I did have, is the one that you see behind me, is the one that I remember very fondly.
That's the WCW embossed set.
Is the embossed set. And again, I worked with Jerry getting the autographs and stuff like that. And the embossing became almost like mapping, where each figure had to be mapped out on which is the highest point that you want the sculptor for the figure to stick out, So like if I had an arm sticking out, I would do yellow as being the highest point, red being the second highest, almost like, you would see a map of showing like a height of a mountain, that sort of thing, and showing the layers. So, and that's how we will work with the sculptors. And the funny part with this set, which is always a good story, is, the Gorgeous George story at all? And I was just talking to my old boss about it, and he confirmed it. And
surprising you guys got that card out.
Oh my God! And yeah, she's down here somewhere, but I made the most out of it because she had characteristics that stuck out, and when you're in Boston,
program here, so we can say that her tits were hanging out.
But when you're embossing, you're being honest to what's sticking out and what's not. You know
Sure.
what I mean? It's like, it's a mountain. You're not going to lie that this is a low point just to make people feel better. So like, unfortunately, her breasts were the most largest sticking out point out of it. And I remember drawing it, and I'm like, well, this is the highest point, coming at you, And it came out. It was a beautiful card. I don't know if you remember. I thought it was
Oh, yeah. It's card number 71, the base set. And it was also one of the promo cards that got released as well.
So I was talking to my old boss at the time, who was the publisher. They call him the publisher for non-sport cards,
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying how the sports department salesperson came in and was very upset at that card. Very upset. Because, like I said, sports originally did wrestling, right? Mm-hmm. So they were afraid that the conservative wrestling fans are going to think that sports are now making sexual cards of women with their breasts sticking out.
Yeah,
and this is how they consider, like, wrestling's a sport, and plus, look at the beautiful women, and they thought, we have conservative people who buy our products, they're talking about the retailers,
Sure.
And they're going to see this and think that, like, it's sleazy, or
they're concerned that Walmarts and Targets won't want to carry it, probably.
that all that, and so we sort of got in trouble for doing that card, so
it seemed to go through, though.
It got through, but it was too late by the time But we never heard the end of that, where we're like, okay, no more embossed breast.
What's the process like going through from start to finish and creating that card set?
There's a lot of things. And WWE did you get the images, right? And some of them are studio images. Some of them are action images on the stage. Mm-hmm. And it depends on what kind of card you're doing. sometimes you want to do character cards of just introducing the character, you know, and having a studio shot is great. You could do your own background or whatever, or use their background. And, but what was always hard is the actual event pieces. You got to blur out faces, blur out t-shirts that have logos.
Yeah.
They might have their ex-wife name on their neck and they don't want that anymore. And you would have to erase it. I could tell you a few. Who was the guy that used to have the Pepsi?
CM Punk?
Yeah, CM Punk. We used to have to work on him all the time because he would have logos and all types of stuff. And I remember The Undertaker. I think he had his ex-wife.
Yeah, right across Sarah.
And we had to erase that. And once you publish something, and then all of a sudden you get that request, you got to go back, and it's like, can you see it? Is that really, you know? And it was those type of things that made it rough. And also, a lot of them would give you instructions about like, hey, this person has pimples showing on their stomach or on their arms, which I don't want to say what they look like, but they wanted us to erase them because they looked like injection shots.
Sure.
Of some sort. Not saying that's what they were at all, but
I remember dealing with Comic Images about that when they had the license for WWF, and I used to talk to a gentleman named Ron Ferrari, who was the editor.
That name rings a bell.
And he was the editor for that kind of stuff. And he's like, the process of doing that was like, if you have a Matt Hardy cards like that, you know, got an image, but he's wearing like Levi jeans, we got to airbrush that Levi out.
Right? No, exactly. No, you got to erase all that type of little stuff. And sometimes when it's down to a little card, I'm like, why do you care? No one's going to see it. No one's going to, like, you know. And sometimes I would get in trouble from WWE, and managers like, well, you know, we asked you to change this. You didn't do it. And I'm like, I got the card set out. And you're the only one that's going to notice it. But a lot of it, they didn't like, with the women, sometimes you would have to set up their makeup or take out any sort of love handles, not just the women, but the men, you know. Love handles, take out pimples that they were always in the same places in the arms and legs and stuff like that. And but you know, that took time away too. Sometimes you would get the images quick, and they're like, now we got to retouch them. That's going to take another 2 weeks or whatever. And
sure.
So it was always that stressful. And and it didn't matter whether you were dealing with WCW or WWE. It was a very I call it carnival mentality, where you're dealing with carnies where they're not afraid to say what's on their mind. They're very vocal. They're very crass, you know. So I wasn't used to that in business, you know what I mean? So, but I got used to it after a while, where it's like, you're in wrestling now, you know. It's like, you deal with it. You deal with it, you know. And
worked quite a bit in the 99 WCW and boss hits like that. So you had the regular base set from that. Then you had the double-sided chrome cards, which were pretty cool. Those were pretty cool. But that also introduced, in addition to autograph cards, that set introduced for the first time in the non-sport world, it introduced a swatch card.
Wow.
The Hogan swatch.
Mm. Oh, we did a lot. I remember doing that one. That was hard. You know, for me,
it's called the Hulk Hogan Ringside Rarity. What it was called?
Yeah, for me, doing those are so hard because when you get the actual relic, you're like, we're gonna rip this up and make little, like, it killed me. It would kill me. You know, just to show you really quick. I don't know. Just
it's a heritage set. Those are heritage ones.
Here's some of my autograph collection.
Nice.
Look how thick it is.
Those are all from the 2005 Heritage.
We got, you know, Kennedy.
Yeah, the chrome.
Oh, Victoria, remember her? You know, been on all over the place. But oh, here's a Cena one here.
Yeah, someday you and I will have to talk.
Yeah, but
You don't
Sorry,
need those. You don't need those, Jeff.
I don't need those.
You don't need them.
I don't need them. Believe me, I want to get rid of them before they get ruined or lost.
Well, let's talk.
But oh, here's the Hulk Hogan. One of the Hulk Hogan.
That's from Heritage, yeah.
That's what. But we did a yellow one too. I remember the yellow.
That's what I'm talking about.
Remember the yellow one?
The very first one I'm talking about from WCW embossed.
It was the yellow one.
That was the first time that a swatch car was ever done for a non-sport.
Wow.
But this is what it looks like.
It was tough, and you know what it was?
Right here. Right here.
Yeah, there you go. I remember that. Yeah, very much. I remember that very much. And the other thing we used to do was we used to get belt, the buckles at the end and use those as, and also mats. We did mat,
very popular, yeah.
Mat relics. But like I would get it in the office and I'm like, what am I going to, this thing was the size of an army tent and I'm in a small office and they send it to me in a huge box and I'm like, oh, this must be the mat, I think I actually still have a turnbuckle somewhere unless someone stole it because we couldn't use it. So
yeah, I haven't
kept it as
I haven't seen a turnbuckle swatch. So not from, that time frame anyways. But yeah, those WCW sets, that was the first time that a swatch car was ever introduced, was that Hogan, ringside rarity.
I remember doing it, and it's hard because what they have to do once they get the relic, they do a test to see can it fit in the card. If it's got to be fit enough and flexible enough for it to work, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And we got in trouble with Hulk Hogan later because we did a thing called Hollywood Zombies.
Yep.
And we had him ripping his shirt just like you saw on the car. That's pretty much, and we had it that he's ripping his chest open.
You drew a nice 11 by something piece for me of that same exact card.
Oh wow! And but he didn't like that. His people didn't like that. Or WCW, somebody didn't like it that represented him. So we couldn't use that piece ever again, or that sort of gag, So it's funny when I see kids or fans drawing it. I'm like,
Who originally drew that? Was that you?
No. I might have came up with the gag, verbally.
You drew one for me, so
I might have verbally came up with the gag. It's like, why don't you, have this guy at the time, and also the artist that did it, I believe. Because we did one, the original one came for a thing called Hollywood Zombies.
Yes.
And it was actually the same artist who did like the Elvis stamp, if that means anything. I don't know if you remember the Elvis stamp that came out. And he was also a painter. So I think he got ripped off of that. And he didn't want to get ripped off ever again. So he says, if you guys ever reprint this, I want money, I want this, I want, So it's an image that you don't see repeated often. And if it's repeated, it's done not by Topps or me or anybody who knows, the legality of it,
Sure.
So, but I got to say, this was one of my favorite sets to do. I also love that you get to see Rey Mysterio without his mask and stuff, and see him as a regular Mexican guy. And
that's an uncut sheet that's obviously, it's not embossed.
Right. What this is before it's embossed, and what they do is so then you can prove the images, and then they do the embossed, and you'll get an embossed one, which I might have had once, and I don't know.
That's a proof sheet.
Yeah, it's a proof. It has the back too, if I could show you, if you want to see. It even says not for resale.
Mm-hmm.
This is the, so it's all uncut sheet, but we also would get like the embossed version, so we can see what the embossed look like. But a lot of us editors, we would be the last to see this stuff.
That's strange.
And sometimes the product will come out. It'll be 6 months after, and I would have to hear it through fans what it looked like or whatever before I was able to send, you know, WCW, oh, here's some product for you to look at, you know. But
So
it
from
was
start,
we were
from
always
start to finish, how long did the process take before they hit the streets?
oh my God, I would say, you know, the shortest is 3 to 4 months, longest is 6 months, I would guess, you know. But 3 to 4 months is what we usually try to get to, you know. Solicitation, and then we'll tell them within 3 or 4 months you should see it, you know. And we would try to hit it, you know. And sometimes we didn't, sometimes we did, you know.
So two different types of companies you're dealing with there, WCW and WWE. What kind of differences was it working with those companies?
WCW was like working with Barnum and Bailey, and WWE was like working with Hollywood or something. It was a little bit more, but yet very tough guy, gangster type of talk. You know what I mean? Which I wasn't used to. Like, you know, I dealt with a lot of studios and stuff, but you would talk to some of these guys, and they would talk to you in a very harsh way sometimes. And you could tell it's nothing to you. It's just like you were just talking to someone else like this before you were talking to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm just, you know, and I'm just someone just rang my doorbell, but you know, but to me it was a very you know, WCW was more laid back and relaxed, but yet hectic. You know what I mean? WWE was more organized, but yet very harsh, I guess. Harsh and
Sounds like
like,
they were
you
more
know,
business-like.
yeah, very, you know, cold business like.
Yeah.
Cold business. And I guess both of them were in a certain sense, since I didn't have to deal with WCW as much. But the fact that they let Jerry go to the locker rooms to get the contracts himself showed me that's a different company. When WWE is like, you don't talk to our guys, we talk to our guys, you know.
We are back. We can consider this kind of a part two if you want to, but I'll make sure I splice this all together. It'll look great. So real life interferes sometimes, but that's how it happens.
Well, where did we leave off last time? Was it anything about autographs or anything like that?
We were discussing that wonderful sheet behind you and the process and how that went. I haven't gone back to watch it where it ended just like that, but we did pretty good when it came to the WCW stuff and the names of people who were kind of responsible for getting autographs and the process and everything. And I think we were kind of going through the embossed set because you had a good role in that.
Right.
Doing the embossed set and how that process went as far as getting that set made. Because we did talk about the embossing and how we kind of got away with the Gorgeous George card.
George thing, and it got us all into trouble.
Yeah.
And it's funny when I see her base card in this, it looked like we took a shot that was that wasn't so, you know, buxom, you know, bosom, yeah. And so it's funny. It's almost like, you know, we were scared. It's like, well, you know, the promo card scared us, you know. So we're like, oh, maybe we should take a shot that's a little, you know, less out there. But
that was a pretty popular promo card.
I bet it was. It was nice. It was even for the blind. But but I was looking at the set, and at this time, WCW had some of the best talent. You know.
Oh yeah.
If you look at it, you got Rey Mysterio, Sting, Booker T,
Eddie Guerrero,
Goldberg. You know, it goes on and on. They had Hulk Hogan. Um, um, you
Yeah.
know, that, you know,
You had,
to me,
you had Chris Benoit, you had Eddie Guerrero, and you had
Bret Hart, you got
Bret Hart.
Bret Hart, you know, remember Stevie Ray? You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
it's like Booker T, you know, and Arn Anderson, you know, and you know, Buff Bagwell, you know, it's, you know, these are like really like, you know,
It was a pretty
big
stacked
names. Like,
roster.
yeah, and get back to how we got these autographs, you know, and everything. Jerry, if it wasn't for Jimmy Hart, there was no way we. Jimmy Hart, also J.J. Dillon, and also Charles Robinson, the I think the
Referee.
referee would help him, you know. And like we were saying, the difference between WCW and WWE was, you know, you dealt with WWE to get autographs, and they would get the autographs and give it to their talent to sign. When WCW was just like, go in there and see if they'll sign them for you, you know, and that sort of thing. So then Jerry McCarrick, who we've been trying to find, you and I,
Yeah.
was, you know, the guy that would go over there and got to know them and became friends with a lot of them. I know he became really good friends with Jimmy Hart, and you know, and I guess he was sour about the Ric Flair thing, you know.
I think because we talked about that, where Rick was probably on his way out the door with that. I was kind of in sour grapes with him at the time. I think that we talked about that.
Yeah, and so like, you know, and I think he always wanted the autograph as well. So you know, but you know, so that was one that got away from him, you know. And but the embossing itself, you know, it took a lot of time. You pretty much have to draw over each figure and actually do different shades and layers to show how, you know, which body part you want to make sure sticks out. You know what I mean?
But how does that process get made into a card? How do you emboss a card like that?
They actually get a sculptor, and I think they, you know, what I remember, they have for some reason you dealt with a sculptor, you know, and what the sculptor did was, you know, almost pound it out almost or something like that. But I wish I got to see how they did it. But I had to work with, you know, they say, well, we need to work with the sculptor, and he needs a guide of, in a almost typography way of, you know, how high you want, you know, let's say Gorgeous George breast to come out, and which part you want to go in, kind of, you know, that sort of thing.
Gotcha.
And so they were almost color coded, where, you know, it might be yellow, and then as it gets to brown, that's the highest point. You know what I mean? That sort of thing.
Because I know how they make an embossed stamping. I had a friend of mine that owned a small trading card company for himself, and he would put his logo in a like a stamping, an embossed stamping on the card.
Yeah.
Is that similar to what they do to print those cards?
It looks like it. That's what I think. That's why I always thought like there was a sculptor that did some kind of plate. You know what I mean? That I assumed was like, I would love to see what they look like.
Just curious how that gets printed out to the machine.
Yeah, and I think it just, you know, they put heat over it, and it just, you know, and then put some pressure, you know.
Gotcha.
And, you know, I think that's because I did have once an uncut sheet and of it embossed, and you really see, like, you know, it, you know, you could tell they could, you know, someone took a metal thing and pressed against it, you know. But I gotta say, it was to me one of my favorite sets to do before getting into WWE.
So let's talk about that a bit. So, what was the first WWE set that you guys ended up working on? That was the Heritage, correct? Heritage.
It was Heritage, yeah.
2005.
I still got some uncut sheets of that type of stuff too, and
Because yesterday when we were talking, you pulled out the stack of cards, and a lot of it was the heritage stuff. Then the
well,
heritage
let
chrome.
me see what I could pop up for you guys. Hold on.
I know you had you had some heritage chrome. You had, oh, that's pretty.
Well, I got Heritage 3. Here's a chrome one, but also have the Heritage 3.
Yep, yep.
I don't know if you guys can see that there.
Yep.
You know, and it has the old designs that we took from sports
Yes.
design. I think they might have been either baseball cards or
Yeah, they're done.
cards.
The heritage sets were designed after originally designed after baseball.
You can really tell when you see the Diva card because that looks totally like a Topps baseball card.
Correct.
But what was great about this one was the design. You got to use two faces. You got to use. I'm sorry, it started to rain.
It's okay.
You had two. You know, you had two faces where you got a publicity shot of the wrestler, and then you had a shot of him in action behind him, which was I thought always cool. You know. If you look at the Heritage 3 here, you definitely see the baseball cards easier on this. Because that was always a famous baseball card design.
Correct. Yeah.
This is Heritage 3, this one.
Nice.
And I always liked this one. Was it Alan Gitzer, you know?
Oh yeah, that was what did they call that? The God, you think
Alan Ginter, wasn't it?
Yeah. You're right. You're right. That first heritage set they liked it, but it was designed after they said the traditional pizza board style cards.
I'm sorry, it started to rain.
That's okay. I can't even hear it.
Hold on. Well, like I said, working with WWE was a lot different. There was a lot more a procedure of that you had to go down the line to. You know, it's not like you talk directly to the wrestler, you know, or anything like that.
Very business oriented there.
We would get like I think we talked about it before. Requests, for them, please take out this tattoo of my ex-wife. We're not married anymore. That sort of thing. I'm sorry I'm talking close because I'm in a glass shelter where you're probably hearing all the rain. I don't know.
I'm not hearing any of it.
Oh, great.
Yeah. For you, other than working on the WWE products like that, I mean, what other properties did you work on?
Say again?
So what other properties did you work on besides wrestling? What other property?
Oh, I worked on a lot. Oh, all the way from Hannah Montana to Garbage Pail Kids, Wacky Packages. I did a lot of movie sets as well, like Spider-Man the movie, Planet of the Apes. I did a lot of the bubblegum stuff that I kind of, some of them were weird, like I said, like Hannah Montana, but Toy Story, Batman, the animated series, not very novelty, type of items. Sometimes they would have gum, sometimes they didn't. I did The Simpsons as well.
Like what do you mean?
Pokemon for years.
What do you mean? What did you do?
I was the editor. And also art director.
Gotcha.
And it was almost the same process as when you do these. You try to get the images. What was hard with wrestling was getting a good writer all the time. Someone who knew it and cared about it. Because you didn't want a guy just writing, oh, here's Booker T jumping off the thing. Yeah, it needed to be somebody who really knew about the inside and out of the wrestling, the history, maybe the rivalries and stuff like that. So,
did you guys have somebody in-house do that, or do you guys hire outside?
We actually had a proofreader who actually knew a lot about wrestling that we always depended on, because he knew a lot about the history. Forgetting his name, David, forgot who, but we depended on him a lot as far as, hey, are we doing this right? Is this, do you think this is a good lineup? And he might be like, hey, you're missing this person. He would really, you really should have him. And he was really up to date with this, so we depended on him. And like I said, there was a writer in Canada who I think he wrote for wrestling magazines and stuff like that, and had a similar thing like you might have had a devoted website or something. Mm-hmm. Probably not as intricate as yours, probably just a list,
Sure.
And but he did know his wrestling, and he wrote really well. And they might even still be using him, as far as I know, because it's really hard to find a good wrestling writer if you think about it.
I guess. I mean, there's a lot of guys online now who are very very knowledgeable about it. The internet makes everybody knowledgeable now.
Well, yeah, back then, it's also funny. Back then, it took a while for people to get on the internet to find them. You know what I mean? So. Mm-hmm. I remember it would be so hard looking for like artists for a certain thing. Now they're everywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I remember it was still like before the internet really was in the crust where people started like, I guess maybe iPhones weren't ready yet or something, where people could just take photos of their artwork and put them up. That
sure.
Sort of. And that's the other thing I always wanted to do. I always love to do like a wrestling art set, where they're all painted,
Well, Leaf Trading Cards has been doing that with all the releases. They've been getting away with.
Oh, really?
Leaf has been doing several releases over the years now, where they actually have paid artists to do drawings of the talent, which I guess gets them.
Great idea.
Which gets them away from having to do licensing with WWE or somebody else, because it's now somebody else's interpretation.
That's a great idea.
So they've just released their latest release. Matter of fact.
And you know what's also sad when you look at this? To me, it wasn't that long ago. But then you see a lot of these guys now are, walking around with canes.
Or passed away.
Right. And you look at them here, they look like they're in their prime, Yeah. And it wasn't that long ago, I think. No. Well, it is. I guess it was, but I don't know.
There's a long list of people on that sheet right there that are no longer with us.
Yeah, yeah. And it's getting shorter each year,
Of course. What specific time frame did you work at Topps? From when to when?
From 90, I would say 97 to 2012, 2011, something like that.
I think because you're the one that gave me the wonderful tour of the Topps facility. You got me in there. We did a tour.
Oh, that's right. I do remember that.
And you had just left the company, I think.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, I was still able to give tours.
Yeah. The year before, I think, is when you left. I think we toured it in 2013, I think.
Right.
Maybe.
Well, I also told them that I thought you would be a nice person to get to know, because not only would we do autographs of people that were, on contract, we wanted to get people that weren't on contract.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And weren't wrestling anymore, and you know, it would have been nice, you know, like, you know, we needed guys like you know, to help find them. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
you know, it's too bad we never got to do it as far as we wanted to. I think we were just lucky sometimes to bump into somebody.
Sure.
You know, but I think Rick, you know, like we always try to get Ric Flair to do something, and it's really hard for him to sign stuff. You know what I mean? You know, to get him to stand still and
Yeah.
sign stuff. And remember the Allen Ginter, we did these tins. Do you remember the tins?
Yep. Oh yeah. They were embossed too.
Yeah, I actually want to get. I don't have them. I want to get the Ric Flair one. No, hopefully I could buy it.
I think I have an empty. No, I have a full one, John Cena one, in storage somewhere. I think it's one of those times that when Colin was working for Topps, he had sent me one of those containers.
Yeah, I was always proud of them. You know, I did a lot of the embossing for Topps, even when it wasn't my project or anything. But you know, I remember showing it to him and how much he loved it. You know, he was so enjoyed seeing himself embossed and that style. You know, like, you know, that old circus type of look. It looked like, you know, it really looked like him, like, you know, lion tamer or something like that, you know,
yeah,
on a tin. And it was great when you meet Ric Flair. He doesn't disappoint.
He doesn't.
He's exactly the person you want him to be. You know?
Yeah, I have some stories I could share with you as well.
yeah, well, maybe better than mine, but like, you know.
No, I doubt that. But I just I have a cool drinking story with him and Scott Hall and Kevin Nash and myself.
Oh, that must be great.
Just happened, as a matter of fact, last year.
Oh wow! You know,
that was pretty fun. But so, what are you doing now? I follow you on Instagram. I
right.
see you're still doing a lot of amazing artwork. You do a lot of GPK stuff.
Right.
I see it, you know, fiddling around with your guitar a little bit once in a while.
Yeah. The biggest last thing I just put in the can, as they say, is an R.L. Stine Garbage Pail Kids children's book. I got to illustrate it. And the cover is illustrated by Joe Simcoe.
Oh, yeah.
And it's written by the great R.L. Stine of Goosebumps fame. And that should be out in October, maybe early August in in specific areas like Target or something. It might, you know, they might get the earliest. I think they have some sort of exclusive to get it early. And I'm ready to do the next book, actually. They're hopefully will, you know, be ready to do that. And I'm also designing a skateboard for a skateboarding team. I don't want to say the guy's name right now, but it's one of those Toby type of guys. Or his name Toby or Andy or something.
Or Sean.
And I'm looking forward to that because I don't get to do boards too much. And I'm doing a Mars Attack sketch cards for my friend Adam Levine.
Okay.
He might have done a wrestling set here and there. I'm not sure. And that's what I've been doing. You know, that's what's keeping me busy.
Are you still taking commission work from people time to time?
Yeah.
Because I remember because you and I met a long time ago. I think we probably met somewhere close to 20 years ago.
I know it was a long time ago. I was thinking about it. Like, how many states have we seen each other? You know,
quite a bit actually.
Shows, you know what I mean? That sort of
funny. You're an East Coast guy, and I met you in San Diego at the Comic-Con San Diego.
Oh, that was like, I remember that's probably where we met.
Yes.
San Diego, if I'm
and then,
correct.
I say, for every year, for probably 10 straight years or plus, I'd see you there at the Topps booth. A lot of times you were there doing sketches for people, and I never bothered you about that. And then one year, and I wish I had it with me because it's in storage right now. It's a little bit water damaged, but I still saved it. It's like 11 by 14.
It's really hard to keep those things mint, you know.
Well, the problem was with me is The problem is I had it in the closet, and what I had is a WWE encyclopedia that I was getting autographed by talent, and I was going to give it away as a prize for like Gen Con for a WWE Raw Deal card game. And I went into the closet one day and I saw the book. Look, I go, God, the book is really fat. Why is the book so fat? I looked down at it. There had been a leakage in the closet, and it got water. It got water on it and expanded.
And it got.
And
wow, so it got thicker.
And so I looked to the right of it, and there was the picture that I had that you had drawn for me. Now, the picture that you drew for me was of hacked Hogan from the Hollywood Zombies. You drew that for me.
I remember that.
I love that.
Yeah, well, I got to get back to drawing wrestling stuff just for fun, you know. But you know, the autographs. Oh, you know, like I said. It's pouring over here. The different autographs, you know.
Oh yeah. I told you, you and I are gonna talk.
This is Layla. You don't know if you remember Layla.
I remember Layla. Yeah.
It's so weird. Some of these people you completely forgot. You know, you're like, oh, where are they now? But you know, but it's a good one, Bobby the Brain.
That's a good one.
You know. And these are the relics like we were talking about, even though this is a flash in the pan. Trying to remember his name.
Let me see it.
Well, I guess he's not a flash in the pan, but Kurt Angle.
Come on, buddy. That's one of my biggest clients.
Oh, really? He's a little guy.
Guy's a gold medal winner, for Christ's sake.
I'm just I'm pulling your leg. Oh, the Big Show. How's the Big Show doing? Is he still like around?
Yeah, he's still around. Yeah. I think he's the latest subject for Stone Cold's podcast thing he's got going on.
Chris Status, Chavo Guerrero.
Chavo's another client of mine.
Seems like a nice guy.
Super nice guy.
Here's a morbid one. Chris Benoit.
Yep.
Chris Benoit autograph.
I'm telling you, I said, you and I need to talk sometime. If you're looking to move those things, I'm looking to help you out.
And here's those ring cards that we were talking about.
Now, here's the thing about ring.
You know, so
they call them ring relics, right? So
right.
Here's the thing about those. Because those pieces were so large, they sent to you. The company's made so many of them, so they're pretty common. They don't trade or sell for very much at all. That's a great card too. That's in the first Heritage set.
Chief J. I like those type of guys actually, you know, make me, you know, I get excited because that's my era, you know. And, you know, even getting this Bobby the Brain in this type of form.
See, people like those cards because they're on card, not stickers.
And they're on the card itself. It's not a sticker, you know.
Yeah.
For some reason, it became easier to send stickers out because we could get the stickers out before we could even get the cards out.
Yeah,
so,
well, then you have the stickers for, you know, multiple releases if you wanted.
Yeah, different, right? Exactly, and it became an economical thing here. The Sheik.
Yep, love that. Another Heritage first series.
I remember this guy.
You sure do.
You know, so like, you know, I thought those type of autographs were great, even though this one's kind of messed up. See, that makes me sad. See how it's bad. Oh
yeah.
And but that's Lita though. Who cares?
Yep. Oh, I know. Another client of mine, a former client of mine.
I'm only kidding. I try to make it. I always like Ken Kennedy, you know, even though this Shawn Michaels one is nice.
It's a nice card too. Yep. He also signed for the Heritage one.
But it was funny that I remember WWE after a while, they had like a legends list where like, hey, we have some of these legends on contract. So that's why we have like Chief Jay Strongbone and all these other guys in the Sheik, because they were still sort of, even though they weren't wrestling, they were still under contract with WWE.
Yeah, they call them legends contracts.
and so and it, and you know, and I guess also they could do toys. You know what I mean? They got to be under contract, so they could do toys and you know, and other merchandise like, you know, trading cards. So
Sure.
it was nice to know that these guys were still getting paid doing, you know, for this
So
stuff.
on the wrestling side of things, again, we'll go back to the wrestling side of things before we wrap up. How many wrestling sets did you work on for Topps?
I stopped counting after a while because, you know, you got Heritage, and then we went up, like you just saw like Heritage 3,
Sure.
right? 3, and then we did Chrome.
You did Chrome with each one of those?
And then we started doing, remember the ones with they were versing? I forgot what we called that one. Where we had it like rivalries. I think it was WWE.
You had rivalries. You also, and I think in 07, you guys did one called WWE Insider.
Insider, yeah, I remember that one. So I would say 6 or 7 sets, you know, that I could, you know.
Okay.
I would think about there, you know.
Were the releases always being bounced back and forth between entertainment and sports?
As far as who was doing them, no.
Yeah, because you know,
it became entertainment. It became part of entertainment. And
well, for a while there, I think after you left, they bounced it back to sports.
Oh well, yeah. Oh, okay.
And that's where all the once they bounced over to sports, they treated it like sports and started making a shitload of parallel versions of cards.
I think you were unhappy about that, weren't you?
I think a lot of people are kind of unhappy. A lot of collectors don't care for parallels.
Yeah, and you know, the way we did it, was, you know, entertainment had, I think, a little more passion and respect for it.
Sure.
Where I think sports looked at it more as, you know, we'd rather be doing football or you know, baseball and basketball or, you know, hockey or something, you know.
Sure.
But not wrestling. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
You know, they wanted something that had real stats, that sort of thing. You know, they're into stats and stuff
yeah.
like that. You know, so when we took it over, we really, I don't know if you noticed, you know, and here's the other thing about designs. If you want to talk about designs, really.
Yeah.
Besides doing the Heritage, where we did old baseball card designs.
Sure.
We always try to make sure we try to make things either have barbed wire. I always thought it was funny. It was like barbed wire, bricks, you know, metal molding. You know, like I forgot what you would call it, like, you know, metal grid.
Yeah.
You know, like the kind you would see on a, you know, on a ride. You know,
some kind of metallic thing on it.
Yeah, you know, metallic pattern. You know, grid, like as if, you know, and fire. You know, well, it was always good. You know, and fire. You know, and then later on, like we try to get little, like maybe sometimes techno. You know, we did a little techno stuff here and there. You know, gridding, and that's pretty much when I felt like I was jumping the shark as far as designs.
Well, was there anything in the design aspect of it, any design that you wanted to do, like you thought would be kind of cool, but they wouldn't do?
I can't think of one, but I know there was difficult ones because I remember the rivalries. That was hard to get constantly images, because what we did was had the two heads on each corner of the card, and then in the middle is them battling. You know, so like on the left side of the card, you got, you know, Kurt Angle, and, you know, on the right side, you got whoever, Booker T or whatever.
Sure.
And the main image is them, you know, in battle. You know? But it was really hard. I remember getting the right head, you know, that would work in the corner and try to get a good shot that didn't interfere with the head so much, or you know, it was one of those things where I'm like, I regret this idea. So it was
I
my
mean,
idea.
I'm sure you probably had a lot of like, bumping heads with WWE because they got to approve everything. You come up with an
Oh
idea
yeah.
and do it, and they got to approve it, and they turn around and nix it.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like we would have ideas, yeah, and that's true. We would have to pass it by them, and we also do these solicitation sheets. Sheets. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
And what I liked about them, I used to make them like circus posters. I don't know if you remember seeing the Heritage 3 one. It was huge.
I have it right over here, actually.
Yeah, and hopefully you like them because for me, they were meant to for people to be, to be used as a poster. Maybe it's like,
Sure.
hey, let me hang this up in my store, that sort of thing. And because that's who would get it was realtors,
Sure.
but but that's the whole job when you're doing that. You're doing the solicitation material. You're designing the cards. You're designing the packaging. You're trying to get the autographs. You're trying to get the photos.
There's a lot of process people don't think about.
Yeah, and the photos need to be retouched.
Yeah.
And then also I think you need to send the finished cards to WWE to get them approved. Be like, here's your cards, and some of them would get mad and be like, hey, you didn't take this out, you didn't do this like you asked, like we asked. I think I was horrible at that and following every direction they wanted, of retouching sometimes. Because I was like, let's just get it out. It's so small, no one's going to notice, that sort of thing.
I had learned from a contact that I had at Comic Images when they actually had the WWF license. I was told that, and I'm sure it's the same, probably, you know it, is that collectors and sellers of wrestling cards don't understand, of any cards, don't understand that the most money and time put in is the base sets. Yeah. Not the special cards, not the autograph cards, not the swatch cards, that the most time and most money spent on that particular release is done in the base cards.
Yeah, no, right.
Yet those are half the time just given away half the time.
And you also got to think sometimes, not only that, it takes time to pick the images because sometimes we have choices, you know what I mean? So like, you might have like 3 different images, 5 to 6 different images of Stevie Ray, and you're trying to get just that one perfect shot that you think says it all, and sometimes You're like, oh, let me try that one, and you're not realizing as you're doing it, like how much time you're taking, and, and you always feel like once you pick one, then you want to go back to the other one anyway, for your, so, you move back and forth, and then
we'll put that shot in the next release.
Exactly, but and some of these shots would be the studio ones, and those were always weird because the backgrounds would be kind of plain. There was nothing, so you kind of had to cut them out and put them in their own background, and
Sure.
I guess that's what they were meant for,
Yeah.
But it's just kind of weird to see a wrestler standing there with like cardboard behind him.
Yeah.
And he's just standing there, and you as the editor, and we had a design firm called Mata Design, who did a lot of what we would do is give direction, like, hey, we want the cars to look like this. Sometimes I would draw out the designs. Sometimes I would just tell them, hey, we want this kind of feel, but they're the ones who actually compose the cards when it's time, put it on the computer, that type of thing. And they did all the sets, but but overall, the whole process in doing it is a lot of hands, and it takes time. It takes a lot of time. And like you said, the base cards are the thing that takes the most time because of the retouching, because of picking the images, and because of the writing, And we were talking about the Chris Benoit. I think we did a set that he was in, and we had to pull everything out.
You had to pull him out of, I think the first Chrome one.
Right.
Chrome. It was Chrome. One of the Chrome ones, you guys yanked him out. I think you replaced him with either Boogeyman or something like that.
Right. And it was, it was like, just, WWE didn't waste no time telling their, licensors or licensees,
Sure.
whatever, get that we don't want to have no association with this guy. If there's any way you can take it off the shelves, please do. And of course, going forward, do not use him.
And I wonder if,
and we as the editors, we were in shock when that happened.
of course, everybody's in shock about that, of course. But it makes you wonder too, since at that point, when you guys got to the first Chrome set, which was a Chrome version of Heritage One, basically, that was the last set he was in, which those were done by stickers.
Right.
It makes you wonder, were there any leftover stickers he signed? You guys just trashed them?
Yeah, no, I don't. The stickers was a totally different base, because then it was almost like we would get the stickers and it would go directly toward the card packers almost, and the card packers would put the stickers on, that sort of thing. I think it was actually maybe in Duryea, Top Sisters company in Duryea. Mm-hmm. They might have done it like there or something like that. But and I remember hearing the backlash where we were hearing people not just on this set but on other sets. I think they did it on Star Wars and then on some sports stuff.
Sure.
And people say they want they want it on the card itself.
Yeah.
Because it seemed when the sticker seems kind of impersonal.
Yeah, because you don't know when it got been signed either, because sometimes you're having a guy sign 30 or 10 sheets of 30 stickers per sheet. There's 300 stickers right there. You're only going to put 100 in this release and 100 in that release, and
And the sheets would be like almost like 8.5 by 11, and they'll give them a stack, to sign. You know what I mean? And then when you would see them all signed, for some reason, I'm like, it doesn't look impressive, even though I know it still has to be put on the card, but there's something, I don't know, something weird about it, and and also the shiny part of it, kind of like, I don't know. There's something different about, like, I kind of like paper is kind of better than I don't know if Chrome or
well, if you're gonna make an autograph,
I don't know if Chrome or stickers is the best way to show off someone's autograph.
Well, you're on a Chrome card, and as you know, signatures don't appear well on a solid Chrome card, so right. Stickers make sense on that. But I don't know. I think collectors like having on-card signatures way more than they like having stickers.
Yeah. And you also know the guy held the card, and you kind of feel like
exactly right.
Their oils are still touching, the card or whatever. So you kind of feel like, oh, Ric Flair was holding this card. Now I'm holding it, and it has his autograph. It's I think that's part of the lure of it,
Absolutely.
But
I love it.
What you need to do is get Jerry McCarrick if we could find him.
I started researching him this morning. As you know, I was sending you messages and started researching him this morning. So having a little difficulty trying to track him down. I found some people from other.
I was trying to track him down too, and I got numbers. People gave me numbers, and they weren't working. So they.
I'm assuming he's probably based out of New York, right?
Yeah. He was in Long Island last I heard.
Okay. Last I checked, that was still New York.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but like, in New York, Long Island seems like another place. But yeah, but totally a Long Islander. What I remember. But you got him. He would have all the locker room stories.
I'll find him.
And he was good friends with Jimmy Hart and others, but
I'll reach out. I'll reach out. We'll figure it out.
But it was great going down memory lane on this. It
yeah.
Was,
well, it's been a long time since we saw each other, before yesterday, of course.
Yeah.
When we started doing this whole little podcasting or whatever you want to call it, YouTube channel thing, we were one of the first people I thought of, like, I got to talk to Jeff.
Well, like, I was in the thick of it as far as wrestling cards for a long time, and it became a part of my identity at Topps, I'm the wrestling guy and stuff. And And, and it was really hard of each set. How can you beat the next one and come up with a theme that makes sense, and
well, several of those sets were based off of old baseball, and so I think one might have been based off a football card set, but they were designed, and they were part of the advertisement was, the classic heritage, the 1952, blah 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 baseball set, whatever. So they were always like borrowing from the sports side, but then adding an entertainment aspect to it.
I think I even wanted to do like rookie cards or something like that, like almost like.
Did.
And did they do that?
They took.
I remember trying. I remember thinking about it, so I don't know if I did it.
I want to say they took. Who bought out the Flair license? Did Topps or Upper Deck buy out Flair license? I think it was Upper Deck, maybe.
Upper Deck got the Flair license.
Yeah. So it wasn't a Flair design they took, but I remember Topps took a design of a baseball set from like, I want to say 87, 88, 89, somewhere in that time frame maybe, where they had a cool like a little banner type thing and made a rookie design. They took the whole concept of baseball and made rookies.
Yeah.
And they had one for, it might have been 91, might have been 91 Topps, and they made it look like future star.
Right.
Some of them were future stars, some were rookies.
I was thinking, like, some of the designs we did, they were getting a little technical, where I was glad when I eventually got, for some reason, I didn't have to do the wrestling cards anymore. It was sort of like it was a struggle. WWE doesn't mess around. They're very harsh business type of people. They don't, they're not like, hello, how are you? How's it going? It's what do you got? Let's do this. That's not good. Go away. I don't care. They're not very, so I was always like, not always looking forward to talking to some of the people there, because they were, it seemed like they were so stressed, and when you called them, they were in the middle of some sort of, crisis, and like, and you were in the way, you know what I mean? It's like, grading cards. Oh my God, I don't need to do, so like sometimes I would regret, it was like, oh my God, I got to call WWE. But that's my experience. I'm kind of running out of stories here.
We'll definitely reconnect again like that, because I want to talk to you about your autograph cards there. But
I did. Well, I was talking to someone who worked at Topps for years at the same time as Jerry McCarrick, and he said years later he met Jerry, and Jerry was working at a bank under some other position.
Sure.
And he told him, he says, one of his favorite times in his life was doing those cards and working for Topps,
Jerry said that.
Yeah. So I said, oh, I got to remember that to tell you. So
yeah, I gotta find that guy. I think he has a wealth of information when it comes to those cards, and there's a lot of.
He has so many backstories where I wish I could remember all of them. But like, he would just tell me these weird stories, because he would have to follow these guys, in and out of the locker room to get them to sign them, So he heard a lot of things. He had to do a lot of things to try to get them, maybe buy him a dinner. And like I said, some of them wanted extra cards for their family or something like that. And so, he wheeled and dealed with them to, as much as possible to get the cards.
Well, we'll track that guy down and get his stories out of him. Hopefully, maybe he can put to rest some of the rumors about those cards and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, he's definitely the one who could tell you about the Ric Flair face, firsthand, and which cards became missing. And I remember I used to have blanks of somebody for a long time. I must have threw them away, but
that's blasphemy.
But we would have a lot of cards made that would never get signed.
Yeah.
And we would just throw them away. You know what I mean?
Well, then can you confirm it all? Maybe you might know, because a long time rumor is like you know, that there was an Eric Bischoff one, but he never signed. There was a Ultimate Warrior one, but he never signed.
I'm sure there was. I'm sure there was. And I can't remember all the talent, but
I mean, even someone mentioned
we
like,
made a lot of cards for talent that we hoped that would sign. And if we knew that we couldn't send it to, like, oh, we would get them made, we're like, well, where do we send it, you know? Or we would send it and the person would just say, you know what, I can't do it, I don't have time. And they would be gracious, you know, nice enough, you know, to send them back, you know. And we would have this, you know, look at this, we have all this, you know. I think we might have been Elizabeth or somebody or something, like we had.
well, Elizabeth,
like,
I mean, she's fine. But I mean, I remember there's even the rumor that even you guys made a card for Ted Turner.
that I don't remember that one. I don't remember that one. But the Eric Bischoff sounds very familiar. That sounds like something we would do, you know. And but you know, so many cards would come back unsigned and just thrown to the bin, you know, because we couldn't use them for the next set.
Sure.
You know, because it's a totally different design. And you know, so yeah, that's
That amazes me that Topps even do that, considering they you know, are so popular with their Topps Vault stuff, you know.
Yeah. You know, I think at the time we didn't think about it like that. You know, we thought, well, who's going to want a blank, you know, card, you know, that says autograph on it and there's no autograph on it. Like, and I also said, like, sometimes the cards were made of different material, thinner material, because they had to be printed quickly than the base cards.
Sure.
So sometimes you would hear people complain, how come this autograph card is so thin, but the base card is, you know, and it's like, well, we use these companies that can do it overnight, you know, and that's what we can get just to get the autographs out on time, you know, so.
Makes sense.
But that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Sticking to it, man. Great. How can people follow your work right now?
I'm on Facebook as, you know, Jeff Zapata. On Facebook. Also, I'm on Instagram on the Jeff Zapata _
Not to be confused with all those other Jeff Zapatas out there.
Yeah, I think _ between Jeff and Zapata or whatever. But, you know, you put my name in there, you'll bump into me. You know, you'll recognize. And if you Google, you know, Zapata Topps, you'll see a bunch of stuff pop up, you know, and, you know, that sort of thing.
Well, you have a lot of incredible work, man. I've always enjoyed your artwork.
Oh, thank you.
And I feel kind of honored that I have a piece that you did, even though it's kind of water warped now, it's like that, but I have a piece that you made.
That's you know, I'm glad you got one. We've been friends a long time.
Long time. Hopefully for a lot longer too.
So what is this on? I'll be looking forward. I'll tell all my wrestling friends to look at your show.
YouTube.
On YouTube, okay.
Yep. YouTube channel. I started a WTC YouTube channel, so this will be episode 5.
When it's ready, send me the link and I'll put it on my Facebook.
I hope to have it all edited and processed hopefully tonight.
I also hope people write in and or at least put in responses of what we're talking about. I hope people enjoy it and get some information. Like, you know, like you and me, we like it, and, you know, but I don't know if everybody else is getting any jazz of hearing about this.
Jeff, listen, for me, it's just kind of like it's a pleasure thing for myself. You know, I've mentioned this many times before on other episodes, you know, for some personal reasons for me to get you know, comfortable on a camera, speak better, that kind of thing. But it's also a chance just to kind of touch up and talk about things that I'm kind of passionate about. Wrestling trading cards, you know, if there wouldn't be a Vela cards if there wasn't for wrestling trading cards, basically. Because even though I took Vela cards into a different direction, it all started because of wrestling trading card collecting. And for me, that's what I was passionate about since 1985. So, you know, I let it go for a while, then you really got involved in it because when those WCW sets came out, that's what really started me collecting again, was the WCW sets from Topps and the WWF sets that came out in '98 from Comic Images.
I've been to stores, and they're always like deep in farmland areas, you know, and these weird flea markets where they like somebody has a corner just totally dedicated to WWE member. It's almost like a museum, really.
Sure.
You know, and I guess he sells some of them, but you know, they got all the cards, they got these belts, you know, they were, you know, signed, you know, standees, you know,
Sure.
signed and stuff like that, and you know, but you know, you're not, you know, so you're not the only one out there, you know. There's a lot of people, you know.
Well, I mean, I'm not a passionate collector like I used to be. I stopped right around when Topps got the license for WWE stuff. Maybe 07 was my last time at the Insider set. I got a few sets here and there, but I really stopped devoting myself to collecting stuff, and just became more about like archiving information about it. That's what WTC's always been about, is archiving information.
It's funny, once I stopped doing the card sets, I stopped watching and a lot of things were changing at the time. I don't know if you remember. So I think it was the perfect time for me to part ways with wrestling, because I thought they were going to a direction with it that I didn't like anyway. You know what I mean? And I think the fans too. It was like, oh, there was some getting really boring at the time.
Well, I'm telling you, the wrestling market right now is very hot. It's very hot right now. Yeah. There are some big time players out there who've made some of those old vintage cards. We're talking in the 80s, and made them very popular. When you have huge big time entrepreneur guys like Gary Vee out there talking about, you know, trading cards and wrestling cards. There's been a huge interest in wrestling trading cards lately. I mean, we're talking Hogan cards selling for 20 grand. You know, things like that. I mean, cards are going for big money for those older 80s cards. But, you know, as the years go by, I anticipate some of that stuff in the 90s and the 2000s to start going, you know, for some decent money too.
I like the 80s set. The 80s set has such a cool retro look to it that fits the times, you know. It just kind of like, it's
well, Topps went back to that 85. Topps went back to that 85 Topps set and 87 Topps sets, and they made a retro version of that with new talent.
Oh, that must have been great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
all righty, my friend. So
good, man. We'll talk again real soon, I hope.
Yeah, we will.
But let's just say goodbye now.
We'll say goodbye to that. We'll say goodbye for now.
Yeah.
And hopefully someday we'll see each other again. You know,
I'll get back after the East Coast.
On the mat.
Huh?
Hopefully on the wrestling mat.
Yeah, not on the wrestling mat, no. All right, buddy.
All right, I'll talk to you. Thanks a lot for having me.
Man. Awesome.
Take care.
You too.